there's a line of cars. I don't know if, have you guys been out back yet? Okay,
Yeah,
there's a line of trucks that are going all the way around. I mean, they're like backed up.
Yeah.
Okay, that have all the ballots that are coming in from the collection centers. Okay, the precincts. So it's kind of like a star system. They have like a center spoke, and then all these precincts send all the stuff to the collection centers. Now, so what they would do is people were pulling them off the truck, off the minivans, and putting them on those black carts that you guys see back here. I don't know if you've seen them. Okay. Yeah. So they put them on the black carts, and then they roll them inside once they're scanning the boxes. Okay. And what they're doing is they're determining where those boxes are at any given point. In this case, they're in the building. Okay. And that's when over here at this location is when you start seeing those precincts start to turn green because they're okay. They try to stack them so that the barcodes are all facing in one direction, where the person that has the scanner can go through and go. But sometimes, most of the times, they're just entering them by hand. Okay. Then when they're done with them, they take them and then they throw them down the hall about 30 to 50 feet. Okay, so you see these things go right, just right past you, and there's carts going in both directions, right? Boxes are falling off of these things. Oh, and I'm sitting there going, what are they doing if that thing breaks a seal?
Right, exactly.
ballots come in, and they find the right memory card. I guess they're finding a sheet too.
So each party can have their own software. It doesn't matter who makes it. They can buy it from whoever they want, do gold or something. In the end, what you get is a data file that has a ballot number. How would they know if they're having a problem? That's the problem.
Yeah.
You know, they're not checking anything at this point, but they're reading it in to, you'd think they'd have a check of some sort of a quick check of a checksum or something.
And then this lady, whenever she gives the memory card, she pulls some out of there, goes back in this room, and if you look over there, the blinds are, you can't see at all what she's doing. And she's putting them in the boxes.
I think she's just storing them away.
But then she's also the one that's bringing the box out over here for.
July 2008, 2005,
I overheard Sal saying that. each one of those boxes represents a precinct, and
Yeah.
once it turns its color, that means that precinct's been accounted for.
Yeah, it's come into the building.
Oh, okay, just coming out of the building.
We came down here and we went through the process with them.
Yeah.
So what is on this machine here comes up on that TV set over here in the hallway.
They scan 200 pages a minute.
Think straight. They're organizing the memory cards back in there by precinct?
Right. Because they'll store them by precinct.
Sure.
So that if there's any question or if we need to retrieve them, rather than just have them in a jumble.
Sure.
You know, we'll have them in some sort of sequence order.
Valves go through the scanner. They are imprinted.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. But I don't remember.
We can all just guess.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what we just did.
Yeah.
Well, I think they used it, you know, when they had to create the cards to put into the touch screen. And so they were using that device for that. But it's just been sitting there, I don't know, it's been sitting there ever since. Forever. Yeah.
It was here when we
Lauren, what happened?
Well, I don't know where he got the lady brought out some boxes.
Right.
One of them was empty. But then he started putting them through the tally machine. And then a receipt came through up on top of the tally machine.
The one on top of that one over there, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And he ripped it off and threw it away.
Yeah, I wonder what those little, there's a stack of cards up there.
Yeah, I think those were there, but he had, while you were filming, he was doing something over there.
Yeah.
I just don't know what.
If we had taken you back, you know.
They're doing some scanning up there. That's outside of all of the massive scanning in there. We got a special scanner up there, and boxes come in now and then. We got a whole stack of cards sitting up here. Hundreds of them in a big bin next to the scanner. That are kind of handled outside the normal flow.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, what's that all about? We still haven't figured out what they're doing up there on that upper deck.
I don't know what's going on. Even Deborah,
You're supposed to know
You're
it.
the ombuds person.
I we can ask. Deborah,
Oh, she's been here, she's been
she's
but she didn't know.
she didn't know what he was doing because
Okay, they brought in all these boxes. Excuse me, Mr. Hamilton. Darren will be right up with your bags. Okay?
Tell them I miss them.
No, I know, I told him to run over here.
Don't go fishing.
They didn't, you know, they had a.
She sent these computer chips by what? UPS. But she didn't wrap them up, right?
Well, I don't think Deborah did it, just to be fair. I'm sure some clerical person.
I doubt if she did that.
Well,
What's that? I heard Debo.
You know, they put it in the tube and handed it to the Secretary of State's employees. Or then took it down to their mailroom and sent it the regular FedEx.
It's still pretty screwy. That tamper with it. I don't know what.
are the memory chips now?
I don't know if they ever found it. They had all sorts of, it's pretty bizarre to see.
But is it true that we're using scanners, slow scanners here that feed them one at a time? The one scanner that they.
We're using the only optical scanners that are available.
After 8 o'clock, I thought.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, no,
And if you want, I'll take you back and show
ready to
you.
go.
Well, hopefully I'll be looking at that.
Question. Yes, sir.
These scanners,
I picked you up. So, yeah, I'm sorry, you're fine.
the scanners that are being used are the same ones that were used in polling place before.
That's correct, that's correct.
Are those e-volt machines?
Yes, they are.
And the chips that are in those, I understand those were deviated en route from Secretary of State at one time.
That's not exactly true. The chips that were sent to us were mislaid.
they sent us complete new chips. So the chips that we have are not the ones that were ever that left control of the Secretary of State.
They're new set of chips that were certified as being
Yes.
when they're run through these scanners, are they producing the little paper tape too? They are.
Well, not each ballot is not. Each ballot does not produce anything on the tape. It's a summary tape. But because the nature of paper ballots is you got a tape that says there's 47 or whatever's here. And you better have 47 whatever's because
I realize counting the ballots is not that hard. But are they doing any spot checking, like random checks, to see if these machines are actually counting the votes correctly?
Before all the machines are used, they do what's called logic and accuracy test.
Now I realize that. I'm asking you this question. Are they checking them when they're here, if they're actually counting the votes?
No. I said that before they are set up, they're checked with logic and accuracy test. There's nothing interim between them. They are what they are. The nature of a paper ballot is that it's recountable, and that's.
I realize that. I'm just trying to find out, but it costs money to recount it. It's not cheap.
If you run it, it costs money.
Well, it costs money to recount ballots, so that's the.
If you believe the count was incorrect, and you ask for a recount, and the recount proves it was incorrect, you get your money back. You do not pay for it. Only if it doesn't get.
But it's still expensive to do that because.
Well, it is. I grant you it's expensive.
I'm not saying that.
I went back and that's all. That's somebody pays.
Somebody's got to pay.
Somebody pays. Yeah. Now, there's an issue that's in court right now, which we're part of, and it has to do with a mandatory increase in. Right now, they do a 1%. They call 1% tally. They take 1% of the precincts and validate their touchscreens and whatever against what they came up with,
regardless of what the result is.
Right, 1%. And in addition to they pick raw precincts 1%. In other words, if there's 1,650 precincts, they'll pick 17 precincts. But they also have to pick at least one precinct to cover every issue or race on the ballot. For this one, it's not a big deal, except for Coronado, Poway, and El Cajon. There's one of them, I don't know what it is. All the issues are countywide, so it's not a big deal. But come June, or if there were local props on it, they'd have to increase more. The proposal by the Secretary of State was that based on the election night unofficial results, that 1% would have to be increased to 10% for any race that was closer than 0.5% difference. I only represent my views, strictly my views, not the registrar's views. The focus is the wrong point, because as you will find out tonight, probably fewer than 60%, maybe even fewer than 50% of the votes will actually be counted. Well, probably fewer than 60% of the votes will actually be counted with the initial one tonight. We have all the provisionals and all the late mail ballots that are going to be coming in, which could end up to be 20 to 40% of the ballot total. So it makes more sense, which could change that 0.5% and make it wider, but more importantly, it could add 0.5% that were different. So we feel it makes more sense to base it on the canvas tally. Now, at that point in time, the requirement is to increase at no cost to anybody except taxpayers to 10% of the precincts involved, and do that. And I believe there's a clip level for if there's a discrepancy of X amount, then that increases, then it gets into more stringent and then eventually full count.
So are you saying that the 1%, okay, originally you said that you do a 1% check by recounting the paper ballots on 1% of the precincts, regardless of the result, right? Okay. Then you said that if the result is within, what is it, 0.5%?
Yes.
then you do an additional recount. Is it only for that race, or is it for the entire, all the races?
For the race, by race.
Only that one race. Okay, that's different than the other test.
Right, right.
And then you're saying also that the number that they're saying, the 10% is 10% of the ballots that are cast at precincts only, and does not include vote by mail or provisional
No,
ballots.
that's not true. They do include them.
Okay, so
They did not in the past, but they do now.
Okay, so what you're saying is the 10% figure includes all the ballots. You've got to recount 10% of all the ballots. Now,
I don't know. I'll be Ned, but I'll tell you. We'll make sure. I'm not sure if it's 10% of the precincts or 10% of the ballots. I think it's 10% of the precincts.
Okay, 10% of the precincts.
And now what
and they're like randomly drawn.
We've
so
changed.
Hopefully, it's about 10% of the ballots.
Yeah. Well, it could even be more. We in the past we used where there you are. We've used a random number generator, computer-based generator, to do the pick the 1%. I went out to Walmart yesterday, what's it a long time ago, and bought 40 ping pong balls, which one of my staff is putting the numbers 0 through 9 on, and kind of like the lottery where you have, ping pong balls in a container, and you draw one out, draw the other one out, and so on. So that's the way we're going to be doing it for this election. There is also something called the election alphabet. Every election, Secretary of State has 26 ping pong balls, one for every letter of the alphabet, and they draw them randomly to establish what the alphabet is.
Then they can't keep changing the sequence.
They do every election. The idea being is that the A's don't always go at the top and the Z's always go at the bottom. Well, then beyond that, within each congressional district, you have to rotate them. Now, if you remember correctly, in 2003 for the recall election, there was a few people on the ballot. I remember I get my ballot, and a guy named Schwartzman was at the top, and Schwarzenegger was at the bottom. That's just the way it came out, and it's just the way it was. But there's the S at the top, not A for whoever A would have been. So. That's it.
Is this trying to get in place, waiting for ballots?
This is Michael. For those who don't know, this is Michael Booth. He's our new assistant registrar. He came on board earlier this year. He's been a very valuable asset to the county. He's taught me a few things, that I didn't know. A lot about Ohio State football that I didn't want to know.
I got another question.
Sure.
As I look out here in the room, there's 100 machine scanners.
Yes.
And there's a whole table with people sitting there with little memory cards. Is that right? Can you explain what's going on there?
Okay. Ballots come in. Okay. I'll answer that question first, and I'll come back to something else. When we scan in the precincts, each precinct can only scan their ballots. Precinct 120050 can only scan it. So each one of the precincts has a memory card for that specific precinct. So that's when the ballots come in, we have to marry the memory card to the ballots so they can go to the scanner. On the larger issue, somebody asked about the scanning of the absentee ballots or mail ballots. Those have all of the precincts loaded on them, and they can read them by the coding on the side of the ballot tells them what precinct it is, and they can do that. That's how the central scan works.
Right at this point, when they know what precinct it is, what do they do with it then? Do they put it in a box that sits back there?
This is the first time I've done it.
Precinct number?
The precinct box comes in, or boxes, with the precinct number on it. 1 of, 2 of, or whatever it is. They're checked in over here. They'll be brought over here.
We've already scanned 250,000 ballots.
That's the mail ballots, yes.
How do you get them with their precinct?
They're okay. We use them, call them, it's a Pitney Bowes, technically it's a mail sort, optical mail sort. We sort the ballots, even though they could process them randomly, we pre-sort them into precinct order and basically batch them by precinct. on the absentee side.
They're still in their envelope.
No, they're on their own.
They're out of the envelope.
Out of the envelope sometimes. Remember I said
Already verified. Right. That's, I was just trying to, where
They
you were.
sorted into precinct
I'm
four.
sorry. They sort, you're right. You're right. You're wrong. You're right. We sort the envelopes before they're separated. But once they're separated, they're kept in that batch by precinct.
Right.
Yeah. You're right. I apologize.
That's the inference.
Yeah. It's you're right. I am kind of obsessive compulsive, so I understand where he's coming from. Yeah.
I ask questions for the record.
Okay, I got it.
So that's how they keep them together. Then at some point in time, and again, the first election we've done this. At some point in time, for the 1%, they'll be married. I'm not sure of where they're going to marry them. We're required by law to keep all ballots and election materials for 22 months. Why 22 months? Because after, well, unless there's a court case going on, after 22 months, you're in the next election cycle, so there's no reasonable recourse to going back and recounting or where the election, because for all intents and purposes, the term is over. So that's why the election law reads the way it does. So we keep it for 22 months. So we have elections going back to 2006 back there. They're in storage, all shrink wrapped, secured, all sealed, and they'll be marrying them together in that storage, I believe. That's going to be post-canvass. We need to keep ballots available and open, pending potential recounts, court cases, whatever.
So the boxes come in, you take each precinct to a scanner and marry it with the card.
Marry it with the card, then you can scan it.
Then you do the scanning. Then the card it's got the number on it, right?
Right.
And that, is there a tape or something made of the number scan?
The tape, the tape is made, yeah.
Zero tape?
Zero tape. There's a zero tape. It's one tape, two reports. We don't tear it. You got the zero report, then you got the total report. That stays with the ballots. So that's why you can't mess with it. You can't, fudge it with the card. So it doesn't go with the card, it stays with the ballots. And then the card goes into the tabulation room and it'll be uploaded.
Okay, then the information from the tape, that has the tally of every race on it, correct?
Correct.
Is there a manual recording of that from every tape so they can be brought back and compared with the final tally?
No.
Is that possible for people to do? Can we get that? Can we get a record of what the tapes say so that we can go in, add it up, and see if it's close to the result? Because what good is those tapes if you just throw them away?
We don't throw them away.
You don't, but you don't read them.
No.
What do you do with them? What do you do with the tapes?
We archive them with the ballots.
Okay, but you're not utilizing them to verify the result of the ballots, right?
I don't think we need to.
Well, I'm not asking you whether you think you need to. I'm asking you if
The law
it's
says I
possible.
don't need to.
I know. I'm asking you if it's possible, since the citizens are here to oversee this, not to guard yourself with the law here.
I'm sorry, sir, but I am guided by the law. I'm required to follow the law. That's exactly what I'm supposed to do.
Do you agree with this from a technical standpoint now? Let's not be attorneys. From a technical standpoint, don't you think the result would be more robust if we could take those tapes and take a look at them and compare it with the result?
No.
Why wouldn't it work?
You asked me an opinion, I gave you an opinion.
Well, I'm asking you why now.
Because I believe in the integrity of the electronic voting system.
Okay, so you think that you should take the tapes off the machines and then just archive them and never look at them?
Unless there's a reason to.
If the citizens would like the information from the tapes, which is only 650 tapes, right? 1,650 tapes, which we can take a notebook and write down the result. It's a small race, and we can tally that up and see if it matches what was put on the digital media.
I can't, you're in the legal grounds. Don't know if that falls in a PRA, public recognized request, or if it has other, I can't answer the questions because now you're in the legal, I don't know.
Okay.
In theory, it should be able to be done. What the process is, I don't know.
Okay, you guys have chosen not to do that because you're very sure that the result that's on the digital media matches what was on the tape.
Yes.
Okay. Why are you sure of that?
Because the same software created them both. So if I'm going to have legitimate software, they're going to be the same. If I'm going to have violated software, they're going to be the same.
Well, not necessarily. If the software was violated, they could put a result on the tape that was different from in the media. Don't you agree with that?
Good.
Yeah. So they're not necessarily the same then.
No, but if they're different, which is right?
That's a good point. I'm not trying to say that one is right, but if they don't match, we've got a problem, don't we?
We have ballots to go back to. If you believe there's a discrepancy,
well, you guys are the ones that should be checking yourself on the way through with any possible means that you have to make sure that no one is swapping these media over here, and that maybe somebody's jumbling or putting on media that was pre-programmed.
We believe we have security systems, procedures, and processes in place to ensure the integrity of the chain of custody and continuity of custody, the validity and confidence in the system, that we don't feel we need to go back and double check.
Right. I think with getting the tapes off the machines, you said those are public records, we can do a request from the tapes.
What's that?
The tapes off the scanners. They're not being compared, you know, the tapes are just being archived. And it'd be better if they were compared with, as the results are read in off the scanners, you know, off the uploading scanners over there. As they read the card, the results optimally would appear on a screen. They could take the tape and go, yep, that matches, so that we got the right card, and it didn't get erased or anything like that. And that'd be the best. But what her point is that if we get a report of just the precincts, not including the provisionals and the voting vote by mails, then that should match exactly the slips, slips of paper. If we do a public record request off the slips, all we'd have to do is go through some 1,700 slips. Which is not, I mean, there's plenty of citizens that will help go through those just to check the results. And so it's not any kind of mind-boggling amount of work.
We've moved to all, what they call shim readers, they're unshim readers. So they're real tight. Yeah, so it's real tight.
They're going through really this, but the few times I've watched, it seems like they're going through.
Yeah, we pulled the 1%, 17 precincts for about $3,000. The precinct side, the non-precinct outside.
That works.
Yeah, we'll just rename it to Spanish. Yeah, I did that. I gotta buy these guys stools. Yeah, my back was hurting on Saturday. I was standing there in these things for 4 hours. So in the back, I got really think that.
Back in there for this.
Yeah, you know, that's 100. You know.
Begin the 1% formally. This is just a quick description here. You've already witnessed the random selection of the precincts. We did that last week. On Wednesday at 10, we are going to select the additional precincts that weren't covered by the 17 precincts that we selected. So if you're interested in attending, Holly and I will be doing that together.
Every team has 2 tally sheets. So 2 people will be tallying on the tally sheet, and 1 person will be calling the ballot. And what they begin with is, first of all, we count the number of ballots. So we start the process with the reader saying ballot, and the talliers will mark a slash in the ballot column and say 1 and check. And that tells the reader they can go on to the next item, which is to tell the readers what type of ballot is. In this case, it's a Republican ballot. And so the talliers can now find their place on the tally sheet for the Republican contest. They call the candidate's name, and the tallier will say 1, check. And then the reader knows they can go to the next contest, which after the presidential race, it's all propositions. So they call 91, yes, no. And we're counting the number of votes for a candidate. We're counting the blanks, so there's no vote. And we're counting overvotes, which means if they mark 2 candidates, or on a proposition if they mark yes and no, we need to note that. You can raise your hand if you come across that in the first comment, okay? So we're counting the candidates, we're counting the number of ballots, we're counting the number of votes cast, whether it's for a candidate, yes or no on the propositions, and also the blanks or the other votes. And
as ballots are brought to your table, we have some on the table already. On your tally sheet, you need to record the precinct, and we're also going to sign that too. We're signing these ballots out to your table and your team, the date and the time that you got it. What you're going to get first are precinct ballots. On this card, this one here, are all the precinct ballots, the ballots that were cast at the poll. So we're going to do those ballots first. When you get to the end of that stack, you're going to put a little mark on for each race on your tally sheet that shows you're at the end. You're going to raise your hand, and the supervisor is going to come over with the report. And we have a report for the poll ballots, and they're going to check to see if you're on track. So you're going to read to the supervisor what you've come up with, and they're going to say yes or no. And so if you get a no, you're going to retally whatever that race is. Once you're done with the poll ballots, then we'll do the absent or the mail ballots. And we have a report for that, and then we have an overall report which combines all ballots cast for that precinct and that were tallied on election night. What happens if your count doesn't match the election night count? That means you're going to need to retally. So we talked about your first time through, your slash marks are going to all go one direction, depending which right hand or left hand goes. All one direction, and if you need to retally, then you're going to tally, you're going to slash the opposite direction, which actually will be crossing it off. We tally up to 3 times, and so if we have to go to a 3rd time, and don't be surprised, that could happen, then you're going to use a colored pencil to make a slash mark. I already know that on the top of your tally sheet there, where they added ballots, we already know this came up, that we're probably going to have more than 250, so I'm going to print some add-ons for that, so you can continue tallying and not have to have one other sheet. So we're going to work on that after you guys get started. Any other questions? And just be sure and ask questions. We're going to circulate as you start off. And I think it's up to them.
Thanks, Holly. Thanks, everybody. I'd like to thank my staff for the excellent job they've done in getting this all organized and for the full training session that you had this morning. How many of you are doing this for the first time? Oh, quite a few of you. Okay. Well, just a little bit of word of explanation about what this process is all about. This process has been part of the elections code forever and ever, basically since we started using computers in elections. And that even precedes me, if you can believe it. But we started doing this in California when we introduced computers in elections as a way of checking whether or not the computers were programmed accurately. And this isn't the only check that we do on that particular process. The really important check that we do to make sure that we've programmed everything appropriately when we're first laying out the election is what we call our logic testing. And that logic testing process says, does a vote for candidate A get recorded through the system as a vote for candidate A? Okay. And we go through that testing for several weeks, and it's a pretty extensive test process. And we even do at the conclusion of that, we do what we call a logic and accuracy test for observers, members of the public, grand jury, League of Women Voters, and so forth. That really tells us, or it tells me, once we finish that test, I feel pretty confident that the equipment is working the way it's supposed to be working, and that everything has been programmed to count the votes for the proper candidate. But your job here today and over the next couple of days is to make sure, again, that is the case. So by law, we draw precincts equal to 1% of the total number of precincts, which in this case is 17. And we go through and we're doing the hand tally that you're going through today. So again, the purpose is to say, did the machine count the way it was programmed to do? And there's some confusion in this process about a recount. Now, a recount gets into, oh my goodness, the voter voted for 2 candidates and they crossed one out, and maybe they initialed it, or maybe they didn't, or maybe they even signed the ballot, or they did something really strange, okay? Then there has to be an adjudication of that particular vote. And that's the supervisor's role, it's my role, that adjudication process. That's really not what we're about today. And that's when you've got lawyers in here and candidates on both sides, and you've got a very close race. What we're doing today is we're saying, did the machine count the way it was programmed to do? So you're going to see where maybe somebody has voted in a vote for one, they'll vote for two candidates. Okay? The machine would see that as an overvote. To determine whether the machine is properly programmed, we would have to look at that and say, that's an overvote. Okay? So we're not trying to say, what did the voter intend to do here, just did the machine count it properly. So that's really what this process is all about. Okay? So I just wanted to clear that up a little bit. Any questions regarding that? I think you'll probably see, as you get into this process and as we see live examples, that will probably become clear to you what I'm trying to explain.
Okay, it's a Democrat. We say president. Okay, Democrat. Mitt Romney, popular president. Thank you. Okay, Mitt Romney. Proposition 4. Check. 4. Check. 93, yes. 2. Check. 91, yes. 3. Check. 295, yes. 3. Check. 96, yes. 4. 3. Check. 7, yes. 4. 3. Check. 2. This one is president-elect. Check. 1. 2. Check. 91. Prop 91. Ballot. Check. Democratic. Obama. 93. 4. Check.
What do you have?
Second page.
Oh, thank you. 4, check.
91. No.
Check.
2. 4. Hold on. 93. No. 4. Check. 94. 95. 94.
Check. Democratic, Obama. Check. 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 Check.
Opposition 91. No. 92. 93. No. 5. 94. 7. 95. 36. 97, yes.